Good morning, everybody. I'm coming to you from Nicosia, Cyprus, and a capital where they do not cut down. Look at this. Cut down their trees on the sidewalks, the branches, so you can walk. But it's a Friday morning, and I thought I would do a video, and we'll talk about some news stories. We got a lot to get to. As always, we got a lot of news to cover. So let's just first get this topic out of the way. I think put this to bed, and has to do with the warship, the Moskva. They were the ship was being towed to Sevastopol. I've actually heard it was going on its own, or it was being towed. I don't know exactly which one of the two, but a little windy. It was. One sec, while the wind calms down a little. All right, so it was heading towards Sevastopol, and where it was going to dock there, and it sank because of really bad weather, and they just couldn't get it all the way to Sevastopol, or they got it pretty close, and that was that. So we can put this one to bed. I think there's nothing more to discuss with the Moskva. It's pretty certain that there were no two Neptune missiles from Ukraine, and this wasn't some big battlefield victory from the Ukraine military in Odessa to sink this ship. It looks like this was either some sort of accident, which is where I'm leaning towards, some sort of accident or mishap or something that happened, which happens all the time. It's just unfortunate timing for the Russians that it happened now, or it may have been some sort of sabotage, perhaps. That's possible. But either way, this was not a military win for the Ukraine forces. And even though they're saying it's a military win, and they're celebrating it as a military victory, and I'll get to that in a second. But it doesn't. At the end of the day, the most important thing to know about what happened with the Moskva is that it makes no difference to what's going on the ground with the special military operation. It doesn't affect the conflict at all. So that's the most important takeaway from all of this. What this is really for Ukraine is, and for the collective West, is a PR victory, an optics PR victory. And that's really all they have at this moment in time, to be honest. Soft media power is all the Elensky regime has to go on right now, and that's what they're doubling down on and tripling down on, is their soft media power. And what do I mean by that? Well, Elensky signed a decree the other day saying that Ukraine forces can now attack Russian territory, and Russia issued their counter, and they said, if you attack Russian territory, we're going to strike at your decision-making centers in Kiev. And that's where we are right now. Last night we had a lot of, from what I understand, a lot of reports of loud explosives, loud perhaps missile attacks, I'm not sure, but very loud explosives in Kiev, Kharkov, and Odessa. These were the reports that we're getting. And I believe that Gonzalo on his Telegram channel said that he heard very loud explosives in Kharkiv. I believe that's what he posted. If I'm misquoting you, Gonzalo, I apologize. But something was going on last night. From what I understand, the Russians took out one of, if not the last, fuel depot in Ivano-Frankivsk in the west. They took it out. So Ukraine is at the stage, I believe the Ukraine military is at the stage where they're either very close or effectively have no more refueling or fueling depots left. They've all been taken out by the Russian military. That's what I'm reading into. And so the Elensky regime is doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on... one sec, as I walk under. You see what I have to walk under here? My God. All right. So they're doubling down on the soft media war. And that is all they have, is a soft media war that they can try to win. And that's why I think that they're trying to goad Russia into attacking Kiev or Odessa. That's the play. And that's why you have these little incursions into Russian territory. Keep in mind, these attacks on Russian territory that we've seen the last day or two, I mean, they're attacking villages and towns which are like, 5, 10, 20 kilometers from the Ukraine border. And they're using the PR spin and the mainstream media, the collective West mainstream media is coming up with titles like Ukraine takes out important railroad link in Belgorod, in Russian city of Belgorod. And everyone's reading these titles and they're going, oh my God, the Ukraine military, they're taking out ships and they're taking out, important logistical railway links in Russia. And this is, pretty soon they're going to be invading Russia. And that's the impression that you get. I'm going to sit down here because I got a story with regards to Jake the Snake Sullivan. Anybody in Arizona that lives in Arizona, when I say Jake the Snake, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. He's, well, let me see in the comments down below if there's anybody from Arizona watching and they know who Jake the Snake is. But I'm going to call him Jake the Snake Sullivan because he made some statements about China and Russia, which are interesting. And I'm going to have to read those quotes here. So let me sit down and pull out my phone and get ready for that. But what was I saying before I went off on a tangent? Yeah, so the mainstream media is talking about these huge victories. But then when you dig a little deeper, like 5 minutes deeper into these stories, you see that, basically some rogue Ukraine military, a heroic act. I mean, for 2, 3, 4 guys to do this is pretty brave. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to do this, but they crossed over and they detonated some sort of light explosives on a small little bridge or railroad link, and they blew it up. The damage is minimal and the effect is zero with regards to the logistics or the military operation, but it gets the headlines. And that's my point, is that the Elensky regime is looking for headlines. And that's why they're trying to goad Russia into bombing Kiev, because I think that the people that are puppeteering Elensky and his team of producers and directors, which is his cabinet, his political advisors, are all, TV execs and movie execs. They've been ordered to goad Russia into attacking Kiev because they can then create the set, the movie set of some sort of atrocity, because it's in Kiev and they can control it. That's why they want Russia to attack Kiev and to go after these decision-making centers. That's my opinion. I believe that they're saying, you know what, what we came up with in this village outside of Kiev didn't work as well as we wanted it to work. Yes, we got more sanctions. Yes, we got outrage from the international community. But at the end of the day, they didn't get NATO into this war. And that's their ultimate goal. The only way they have a possibility of salvaging anything with regards to what we now know as Ukraine is if they get NATO into the war, and maybe NATO can come into the west of Ukraine and do something there. Maybe. That's a big stretch, I'm saying. But that's a maybe. And of course, for the neocons, that would be, a dream come true for them if NATO can somehow get involved in this conflict. And the plan that they're cooking up is, let's create something that's not in some village. Let's create an atrocity inside Kiev where we control the dynamics of the city. We can set everything up, cameras, lighting, and create the dynamics where we have a lot of international outrage. I can see it now. Russia takes out a decision-making center in downtown Kiev, and they really do take out a decision-making center. But then Elensky and his team of producers and filmmakers create the dynamics for it to be something totally different. Then the mainstream media runs with it, social media amplifies it, and you can then see the powers that be calling for a NATO intervention right away. They may even try to claim that certain NATO officials were caught up in this in this attack on Kiev. I'm saying theories and I'm being hypothetical now, but I think that's what they're cooking up. They know that their only strength now is soft power and media manipulation. And so they want Russia to go after Kiev because that's an environment that they can control. They can control it, and they can create the movie set that will lead to outrage, which will, in their mind, get NATO involved in this conflict. That's all they have, because when you look at what's going on the ground, and a lot of big things are happening in Donbass, the Russians are about to they're about to go in hard. That's my opinion. That's how I'm seeing it. They're winning big time on the ground. I mean, the reports that I'm getting, and I'm double and triple checking them, is you had a lot of victories this week from the Russian military side of things. And we're just at the beginning of what's going to be the Battle of Donbass, the real big battle. I mean, the Russians are advancing, and they're making progress, and they're preparing, and they're ready to what, in my opinion, would be an annihilation of the Ukraine forces in the Donbass. Now, the Ukraine side of things, they're reporting that they're sending reinforcements to Donbass, and they're getting through, and they're sending artillery and ammunition and all kinds of equipment to the Donbass in order to fight and make their last stand. When you look at the photos of some of the people that are being sent to Donbass, some of these new recruits, these new military recruits, my God, these kids look like they're 16, 17 years old. It looks like the Elensky regime is just recruiting any males over the age of like 14, and they're sending them to a certain death. And it's tragic, despicable, heartbreaking, to be quite honest. And I just wonder if these kids, these young men, know what awaits them. It's really, really sad to watch the videos of these kids being sent to the front lines in Donbass. Very, very sad. But this is the Elensky regime. This is what they're up to. So let's get into some more news here. And I said I'm going to talk about Sullivan. I've actually got a clown world as well. But we also had yesterday or 2 days ago, I think like 2 days ago, we had the Russian Ministry of Defense drop another set of docs with regards to biolabs. And I talked about this like a week or two ago. I said the Russian Ministry of Defense is just going to, every week or two, they're just going to drop more and more documents of all of these chemical and biolabs, or as Victoria Nuland calls it, research centers. They're just going to continue to drop this stuff every couple of weeks. Just drip feed it. And while the effect may not be immediate in the short term, in other words, the mainstream media is completely blacking this out. They're putting this down a memory hole, and they're not talking about this. They're completely ignoring what evidence, documents the Russian Ministry of Defense is putting out there. In the medium to long term, there are going to be journalists and organizations that will dig into this stuff, and they are going to find out some very interesting things about what was going on in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine with regards to bioweapons and chemical weapons and these research facilities. So while this stuff may not have an effect right now and may just be dubbed as Russian propaganda or Putin misinformation, believe me, there are going to be researchers and journalists and countries and various countries that are going to dig into these documents, and they're going to use these documents. They're going to uncover some very uncomfortable things with regards to what the Russian Ministry of Defense is putting out there. And let me just give you some information as to what they're putting out there. One of the things that they put out there is that these facilities were experimenting on Ukrainians, and they were injecting them with all kinds of substances, for lack of a better word, pathogen substances, and seeing what happens to them. Really, really scary stuff. The Russian Ministry of Defense also says that these biolabs, there were certain facilities called known as Science and Technology Centers in Ukraine, and they dubbed them STCU, Science and Technology Centers in Ukraine, and they were headquartered in Kiev. And they also had regional offices in Baku, Chisinau, and Tbilisi, as well as Kharkov and Lviv. So these science and technology centers, these STCU, were they were like all over the Caucasus in Eastern Europe. And the Ministry of Defense says that these STCUs, their main activity was to act as a distribution center for grants and research of interest to the Pentagon, including biological weapons research. And Washington, they claim that Washington has spent $350 million in these STCU projects, and that the U.S. customers and sponsors of the STCUs are the Department of State and the Department of Defense, and funding is also provided through the Environmental Protection Agency and the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Health, and Energy. And they were up to all kinds of interesting research projects, and they were just getting funded by the U.S. government. Once again, I can't confirm this. I don't know if it's real or not, but the Ministry of Defense, they're putting the documents out there. They have the signatures, the seals, the stamps. I don't know. You can find all this stuff online and make up your own mind. I'm just saying that this is the information that the Russian Ministry of Defense is the most recent information with regards to biolabs that the Russian Ministry of Defense has dropped. And they're going to continue to drop these things. We're at the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure they have enough information to last 2 years. I'm sure the Russians have gathered enough information to drip feed to the public for the next 2-3 years with regards to what was going on in Ukraine. And we'll see. I don't think we're going to get a short-term impact with regards to these documents. I think the impact is going to be in the medium to long term if these documents are authentic. If they're authentic and real, the impact's going to be short to long term. China's jumping on these, and the Chinese government is saying, we need to research what's going on. Of course, China's going to jump on this, and they're going to use this as well to hit back at the U.S. This is geopolitics. This is how the game works. So we also have the news, real quick, that the New York Times is running with the news piece that the EU is considering an oil embargo. Actually, they've already decided on an oil embargo, and they're going to put this embargo into effect after the French elections. And they're expecting Macron to win. And when Macron wins, the European Union is going to stop all Russian oil imports. And I'm sure that's going to work wonders for the EU economy. Boy, oh boy. The EU is just tripling, quadrupling down on its suicide. I mean, it's just, the EU is voluntarily destroying itself, and they're doing it in spectacular fashion. But if that's their choice, that's their choice. It's very interesting that they're going to wait till after, in their mind, according to the New York Times, and it's the New York Times, so fake news New York Times, and a lot of anonymous sources, so, we don't know if this is accurate reporting either, but according to the New York Times, the EU is waiting for Macron's victory, and then they're going to put this embargo into place. So they're confident that Macron is going to win. I wonder what they know that we don't know. So let's get to Sullivan, and then we'll get to our clown world. So Jake Sullivan, the Clintonite, one of the Clintonite masterminds behind this regime change effort, destroy the EU, conflict in Ukraine that we're seeing right now. He's one of the guys that was cooking it up. He was at another one of these globalist conferences. I forgot. Do I have the name? I forget the name of these conferences because they all sound the same and they all have these cute little titles to them. The Economic Club Conference in Washington, D.C., another one of these globalist clubs. Anyway, they interviewed Jake Sullivan, and they asked Sullivan about Taiwan, and they asked him about the Russian assets that the U.S. has confiscated, that the U.S. has stolen. And so let's first talk about his comment with regard to the assets that the U.S. stole during their sanctions shock and awe campaign, which ended up doing more damage to the collective West than it has done to Russia. But anyway, Jake Sullivan doesn't seem to mind. Anyway, the National Security Advisor, this is what he said when he was asked, are you going to give back the property and the assets that you stole from the Russian state, but not only the Russian state, to private owners, private property owners, oligarchs. Abramovich comes to mind, for example, and many, many more people outside of Abramovich. It's just that Abramovich is the most high profile. And Jake's response to this question was, our goal is not to give them back. Talking about the assets, not to give them back. That's what he said. He said that the U.S. authorities would use the seized assets, and I quote, in a better way. There are authorities we have, and there are further authorities that maybe we could develop, and that's something we're actively looking at, Jake Sullivan said. So Jake Sullivan at this conference admitted that the U.S. is stealing these assets, and they're going to give them elsewhere. What an easy business model that is, isn't it? I'm going to steal your stuff, and then I'm going to distribute it to my buddies. I'm going to launder it. And you know how they're going to launder it. And they're going to make all this money and all this property disappear. They're going to package it up in some sort of Ukraine reconstruction package that's going to pass the Congress, and they're going to approve it, and they're going to take all these funds and all these assets, and whatever assets they can sell, they're going to sell, and they're going to pool all this money together, and they're going to put it into some reconstruction bill, and the money's going to be effectively laundered. And it's going to go right back into a lot of people's pockets, making them very, very wealthy and just really easy money. This is just pure out theft. It's absolute theft. But what it does do is that it destroys the trust that the international community, countries outside of the collective West, the trust that they once had for the United States, for Wall Street, for the City of London, for all of these institutions that were once held in such high regard, the trust is completely broken. It's completely gone. And there's going to be so many world leaders, so many oligarchs who are just going to take their money and their assets out of the collective West system, and they're going to put it into this new system that's being built. No doubt about it. Short term, we may not be noticing this, but medium, long term, that is exactly what the effect is going to be. Especially when you have someone like Jake Sullivan openly saying that we are stealing these assets and we're going to redistribute them. We're stealing these assets and we're going to hand them out to our buddies. That's effectively what he's saying. Nothing more, nothing less. So when he was asked about Taiwan at this economic club conference, when he was asked about what the U.S. is going to do with regards to a possible assault on the island by Beijing, that was the question. Jake Sullivan said that the U.S. will take every step to ensure that China will never invade Taiwan. Jake Sullivan also stressed that the situation with Ukraine and the situation with Taiwan is not the same. He said that in the last few weeks, U.S. officials have been telling their allies and partners that this kind of thing can happen in Europe, and this kind of thing can also happen in the Indo-Pacific. Quote, and it's incumbent upon responsible countries in the world to send a clear message that any type of aggression is unacceptable wherever it happens. That is a quote from the White House Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan. When asked where the U.S. government would stand if China invades Taiwan, Sullivan responded, our official government policy is that we are going to take every step we possibly can to ensure it never happens. The quote where he says, it's incumbent upon responsible countries in the world to send a clear message that any type of aggression is unacceptable wherever it happens. How about that quote? Unless, of course, you're occupying Syria, unless, of course, you attack Syria, unless, of course, you attack Libya, unless, of course, you attack Somalia, unless, of course, you attack Iran, well, then that type of aggression is okay, unless, of course, you attack Serbia. But right now, the U.S. is occupying Syria, for example. They are occupying Syria as we speak, the north of Syria. Is that not an aggression? According to the quote from Jake Sullivan, it's an aggression that is unacceptable. His quote, unacceptable wherever it happens. So, the international community, the collective West, should speak out against this unacceptable aggression and occupation from the United States. No one says anything. When the U.S. does it, it's good. When other countries decide to look after their interests and their national security, that is bad. Well, at least countries outside of the collective West. Anyway, that is Jake Sullivan, and those were his quotes. They're coming for China. There's no doubt about it. China is in the crosshairs, and they are going to ramp up the sanctions escalator. We know the formula. They're going to start with sanctions, and they're going to start moving China up the sanctions escalator, and eventually China is going to be pushed into some sort of action with regards to Taiwan, and all hell's going to break loose. I hope that's not the case, and I'm wrong, but I think we've seen this playbook happen all too often, play out all too often. So let's get to the clown world. The clown world for today has to do with another V and Z cancellation, and this time it's coming from Moldova. Moldova's parliament has passed a resolution where if you use the V or the Z, as well as the St. George ribbon. Now, the St. George ribbon is an orange and black ribbon that's used by Russia, by the Russian military, and it signifies, it's symbolic of the victory during World War II, what the Russians call the Great Patriotic War. And the St. George ribbon is a symbol of that victory, and the Russian military wears it. And during May 9th, Victory Day, all of Russia, all Russian citizens, they have these ribbons, and they wear these ribbons, or they tie these ribbons to their sleeve. It's a very symbolic thing, the St. George ribbon. And the Moldova parliament has said that anyone that uses the letter V or uses the letter Z or displays the St. George ribbon will face some sort of a fine or criminal prosecution. I'm not quite sure what the law exactly specifies. And they took this decision very, very quietly. It was done very much on the down low. But because you have a lot of Russian nationals Russian citizens or people of Russian origin who live in Moldova. But yeah, we have another cancellation of the V and the Z. But now we have a cancellation of colors, orange and black, on this ribbon. So that's the cloud world coming from Moldova. Of course, Moldova is important because it's pretty much bordering on Ukraine, and you have the frozen conflict with regards to Transnistria, which is a frozen conflict where Russian military is based. So it's a very tense area. Anyway, I am close to the coffee shop that I will go to, and I'm going to get this video up. Let me cross the street here. Be careful as I cross this street. And I will leave it there, theduran.locals.com. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel. We'll have a live stream. And that's it for this video. Take care, everybody.